I'm Sean Galloway, coordinator for the Carroll County History Projects, Carroll County Remembers, and Carroll County Through the Eyes of the Black Experience. And today I'm here with Theresa Franklin, who's been nice enough to come in on a Saturday morning to talk to us about growing up in Carroll County. How are you doing today?
Doing quite well, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, give me a little bit. Where are you from in Carroll County?
I'm originally from Taneytown, Maryland.
Taneytown.
Yes, I was born and raised there. During the Depression, I was born, I think, during the Depression. And I'm one of the siblings of the oldest black family in Taneytown, which there wasn't too many. And there were my brother, my three sisters, and I'm the oldest of the three girls. My brother was the oldest of all of us.
Now you say you're one of the oldest of very few black families that were in
Yes.
Taneytown. How many were there?
The Hills, who married the Hill brothers married the Cook sisters, who lived up at that time, and the Fairlings and Wilson. So those were the only families, black families up there at that time, and the Butlers. Yes.
How different was it for you guys to be, for there to be so few black families in Taneytown at the time of the Depression?
Well, I don't know about that. I just remember hearing my parents talk about it since I was born in '29, and of course it was a hardship for everyone, I'm sure, at that time. But my father and the family seemed to make out okay. I remember one Christmas, I heard my parents talking about the fact that they didn't have enough for Christmas dinner, but somehow or another my father went somewhere and he said he found a duck. So we never, wanted for anything to that point, but we managed. My father was a blacksmith at that time, and I remember as a young girl going down to the blacksmith shop and watching him shoe horses, which was very fascinating, see that.
Okay. Now I remember being involved with an interview with you before with the Robert Moton Center, which is
Yes.
you went to the Robert Moton School.
Yes.
How and Taneytown is obviously a good little ride from from where you had to go in Westminster to go to school.
Yes.
How long was that trip every day?
We left the house about, I guess, around 7. And the thing about that, we had to have Mr. Crabster at the time, who drove the bus for Carroll County, for Taneytown, the kids going to the high school. And since we couldn't go, there was a high school, there was an elementary school, and we couldn't go to those schools at that time. And there was a Catholic school, and all we had was like 2 hours of education in the afternoon. That was when the Catholic schools let out, and then we went there for a while. So I guess my mother was saying no, she wanted more for us. So then somehow or another, I came home one day and saw Mae Prince at the time, who was the black supervisor, I believe, in Carroll County. And they were talking, but I had no idea what was going on. And next thing I knew, my mother said, well, we're going to be going to another school, not in Taneytown, but in Westminster. And Mr. Crabster at the time offered to pick us up on, I forget the name of the street that he picked us up on, York Street, no, not York Street, Meadow Street, well, one of those streets. And he would, on his way to pick up the white children to bring them back to Taneytown, he would take us and drop us off in Tyrone. And Mr. Mason, who lived in Trusselsburg, he would pick us up there and bring us on into Westminster. And that went on until Mr. Crabster stopped and Mr. Mason stopped. Then Mr. Lester Waller, black businessman in Westminster, he said he would do the honors of picking us up and taking us into Robert Moton.
Okay.
So that was twice a day and 12 miles each way. 24 miles a day we traveled, rain, snow, whatever.
So I imagine that was a little hard at times for you. I mean, having to make that trip come all the way to from Taneytown to Westminster, and then go home and have to do your chores, take care of your house duties, as well as doing homework and things like that.
Well, we knew what we were supposed to be doing, and to me it didn't seem that hard. To me it was something different. And what was so much fun about it, the children that Robert Moton, when they would see us pull up, Mr. Waller had a limousine, and so did Mr. Mason. And they would look and say, oh, there they go. So they come into school in a limousine. So that was kind of fun there, yeah.
Okay.
But it was fun.
Okay. I want to go back to growing up in Taneytown a little bit. You guys, like you mentioned earlier, you were one of the few black families in the area at
Yes.
the time. Was it any harder for you guys being the only racially? Was there any tension?
No, no more than usual. But coming up, we weren't thrown into racial issues or anything like that. We might have had a couple of kids would call us out of our name, but I soon got respect from them. But and most of my friends, other than my cousins, were white girls. And to this day, I still have some friends up there that whenever I go up there, we have a family reunion up there, when they know that we're up there, some of them will come to the family reunion to see us. My father belonged to the American Legion. They went to the restaurants, and my mother belonged to different organizations with the white women, and they travel different places, come down to Baltimore to the ball games and all like that. And so whenever my mother would even go up and down the street, they would respect Mrs. Hill. Good morning, Mrs. Hill. Good evening, Mrs. Hill. And it was nice growing up in Taneytown.
That's pretty
Yes.
good. It's pretty rare that you hear most of these interviews that we've done. A lot of people talk about a lot of struggles they had growing up in this area or in that area, anywhere back in those days. And it's very good to hear that you guys didn't really have to go through a whole lot of.
No, we did not. No, and we were the only black family that lived on our street. And when we had something in our yard, the ones who lived on the street, they would come. We would have the best time, and we would visit their homes and all like that. And so that's how we were growing up. And like I said, other than my cousins, I had some friends, white friends that I still hear from.
Okay, take me through a weekend, like a Saturday, growing up in Taneytown, young Theresa Franklin growing up.
Well, we did our chores on Saturday. And then when that was done, then we had time for ourselves. On Sundays, every weekend, we were going, at the time I was coming up, my father and his brother, we lived in a double house, okay? But then when they moved into the country, into my great-grandfather's property, then we had moved next door to my grandfather's property. Then on Sundays, after church, after breakfast, we would ask our parents, could we go out to the country to hang around with our cousins? So we would go out there, and we would walk a mile out and visit. And the whole day we would be walking through the countryside and just having a great time. I mean, we found things to enjoy doing. And we would go fishing. And I was the one that would say, no, you put the worm on my hook, and I would fish. I would catch the fish, and I would look at it, and I would throw them back in. But that was a typical weekend. And then we would have relatives, maybe from Baltimore, coming up to visit. Yeah.
Okay. Give me some of your more least enjoyable chores. What was something that you found difficult that you just never looked forward to doing while you were growing up?
Staying home with my sisters and to help babysit them. My mother did days work, and I was the one that had to stay home and watch them. And she made sure that she said, look, we didn't have a fenced-in yard. Don't you dare go out of this yard, or don't you dare leave the house. I knew what my responsibilities were. But there was a tree in my yard, and when my mother would come home, I would be telling my mother about different things that happened and all that. She said, I wonder how she found out. And this tree was tall. I was a tree climber. And I would get up in the tree, and I could see all over just some parts of the town, And that's what I did. But it wasn't too many things that I really didn't say that I, didn't like doing. Yeah, that was a type of home life, And of course, in the evenings, my mother would be home, my father, and my mother would engage us in stories, and we would have sing-alongs, and she would sing to us, and different things like that. And then I had a cousin that would come, and he worked for a family who had a car, and they would tell him, Mr. Hill, get the car. Take the family out for an outing, and we would travel different places.
Okay. Where are some of the places you would go in this car? I mean, how often was it that this happened? I mean,
Well, we would go to up not too far from Gettysburg where we had some relatives living, and then he would take us up there because at the time our parents didn't have a car, and he would drive us up there, and then we would spend the day with those relatives, or he would just take the children out. My cousin would just take us children out, just drive around the country, things like that.
okay.
Yeah.
And I imagine that's something that you all look forward to doing once.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Get, comparing today to back then, which one do you consider to be the best?
Well, after I graduated from high school and left, then I left and got married. Had to have somebody from Baltimore to come to the country girl. So after I got married and had my family, and then I worked in the school system, then I went to college and all like that. And I'm doing things now that I didn't think I would be doing, and this seems to be the better time for me, enjoying the children that I had and moving to a different place from other than Taneytown. It gave me a chance to see other parts of Maryland, the state of Maryland, and so I'm just enjoying my life now.
Okay. Did you go to college?
Yes, I did. I never forget the time that when I graduated from Robert Moton. Before I graduated, Mr. Crawford at the time said to me, "Hill." I said, "Yes, Mr. Crawford." He said, "Why don't you go to Boyd be a teacher?" I said, "Mr. Crawford, I am not teacher material. I don't want to go to college right now." So then after I graduated, my mother put me through nursing school, but that was only 1 year. That was not my forte. After I saw my first autopsy, I said, "No, this is not for me." So then I got married, and I had 5 children. I started working for the school system in '68 as an aide. And then it got to the point where I had to stop because I had back surgery. So I'm home. So the principal called me. He says, they called me Charlotte because that's my first name, Charlotte. I said, "Yes, Mr. Graybill." He says, "Come on back." He says, "I know you had surgery." He says, "You can work as an office assistant," he said. I said, "Okay." He said, "Because there's something I want you to be involved in." I went back, and the next thing I knew, I was at Morgan. So I worked full time. I went to Morgan in the summer, winter, and all, and graduated in '74 and started teaching. I didn't think I would be able to handle it, but with my family, on my side, and the teachers at the school where I used to work, they really, said, "No, this is something you need to do." So I went, and in a class of almost 1,000, I was number 38, and came out magna cum laude.
Oh, great.
And I retired from teaching in 1992, and would you believe, 2 weeks ago, I'm back in the classroom. I'm helping a principal out just until June.
Okay, yeah, I remember talking to you on the phone. I think it was last week. You said you got back into the
Yes.
classroom of teaching
Yes.
art.
Yes.
Is that what you've always taught?
That was, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I educated in art education, I majored in art education.
Okay, and can you give me a comparison of the kids that you taught in the '70s to the kids today?
Oh, boy. My first day when I walked into the classroom, well, I was in elementary to begin with, and I enjoyed that. I was able to relate to the children by getting on the floor with the little ones and doing different things with them. And till one day I got word that a principal from Mount Royal Elementary Middle wanted me, and I didn't want to go. So I was forced into going. They said, "No." Some of the teachers said, "No, you go ahead." So when a principal asks for a certain teacher, it's an honor. So I went to Mount Royal Middle, and I had my own big room. And the day that children walked into my room, I had to look up at them. I said, "Oh, Lord." In my mind, I was saying, "What am I going to do?" But the very first day, I let them know that that was my room. And I had no problems at all with them until 1990, somewhere around there. I said, "No, I think I need to come out," because at that time, middle school, it's a difference in the middle school children and elementary and senior high. They don't know which way they're going, and they try you, and and I said, "No, I think it's not for me to come out." but I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I really did. And the children are much different even then. And now I find that, well, I'm working with children now who, well, boys now, high school boys now,
Uh-huh.
who have been locked up or in trouble. And so that's the Woodbourne Center that I'm in now. And they seem to be, I mean, they have so much respect for you. And I guess it's what they're going through there, at the school, the center.
Mm-hmm.
They're having someone to talk to them, to let them know that if you want to get along in this in society, and you're coming back into society, and you don't want to be doing what you were doing to get where they are now, that you have to sort of, respect people and do what you're asked to do and all that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Coming back to Carroll County, what kind of changes have you seen over the years?
Especially in Taneytown, it has grown. When I was coming up, I think the population was something like 2,000. But now, when I go, we still have the homes up there, and we still have a family reunion up there every July. And when I go through the town and look to see how it has grown, and it's amazing, to see how things have changed, big change. And different other places in Carroll County. I haven't gone that many places in Carroll County
Mm-hmm.
since I left. But I've heard people saying this, there's a big change now. And
Mm-hmm.
people who are coming from other areas to live in Carroll County, they find that it's.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You live in Baltimore now.
Yes, I do.
How is Baltimore different from Taneytown?
Well, for one thing, it's big. And they seem to have so many issues, of course, the area where I live, it's quiet, and it's, how could I say, it's not really, say, the inner city, I'm not afraid to go out because I
Mm-hmm.
walk in my neighborhood.
Right.
And there are times that I have even gone out and left my doors unlocked. But I mean, I don't, when I come back, I say, oh, what did I do that for? Because you never know. But Baltimore is, of course you have crime and things like that, different issues that you have to encounter and all. But other than that, I never thought I would live in Baltimore because I said I never liked Baltimore. I've heard so many things about even coming up. But it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And how's it differ from Taneytown? I mean,
How's it different
yeah,
from Taneytown?
yeah. Can you give me a quick compare and contrast?
Well, there's so many things where the young ones can be engaged in, different places that they can go, like skating rinks and the arena and places like that, where in Taneytown they would have to leave that area to go to enjoy themselves at places like that, like the baseball, the stadium, and different other things that big cities offer that small towns don't have for them.
How did the area that you were raised in, and you and your family, how did that shape you, your sister, and your siblings, in growing up, even today? How did it do it? How did your parents instill the values into you to become the teacher and to be successful and everything else that your siblings may have come out to do in life?
First, to respect people,
Mm-hmm.
and not to judge, because, don't be so quick to judge people because you never know, from where you come from and all like that. But the main thing is to respect people and have a good relationship with people. And this is what I have instilled in all my children. And I even help the grandkids, talk to them and tell them that if you want to get along in life, you respect people and don't judge people too quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, and that's what my parents instilled in us,
Mm-hmm.
have a good relationship with people, and don't think you're better than anybody else, things like that.
Would you change anything about growing up the way you did?
No.
Why not?
I guess it's the parents that I had, and It's hard to say. No, I couldn't. No, I couldn't. I would say it's because of the parents that I had, and what they did for us, for what little they had to give, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And they were always there for us.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. They were always there for us, you know. And even though my brother at 16, he had permission to join the Army, he being the oldest, he would always come back and do things for his sisters, you know. He bought like the first television set for us and the first radio and all, like, because he knew my parents couldn't do that at the time, you know. But it was, you know, I don't know. I liked it growing up.
Okay. Let's see, what else can we talk about? Let's see. If you had any messages to get out to not just people in Carroll County or the kids of Carroll County, what would those messages be? In speaking with how times are different. Obviously, you grew up a lot different than the kids grew up today.
Yeah.
And by all accounts, you probably raised a lot better than the kids are being raised today.
Yeah.
So if you could put something into those young ones' minds, what would it be?
Well, what I would like to tell the young ones, there was a time where you wouldn't think of being able to pursue your goal. I mean, the sky's the limit now for them. Don't give up. There's nothing impossible. You can be whoever you want to be, or whatever you want to be. And don't say that you can't. I never allowed the word can't in my classroom. And I would say, whatever it is you want to reach, your goals, write your goals down.
Mm-hmm.
Keep them where you can see them. And every day, even if you have to put them on the ceiling when you wake up in the morning and you see those goals, strive for those goals, number one, number two, whatever it is. Sky's the limit. And respect other people, mm-hmm. and love people and have a good relationship with people.
Okay, yeah, that's a great advice for the kids, man.
Yes.
Let's give one for the parents too.
For the parents, try to be home with your children, because they need them. The children need the parents. Teachers can't do it all. So parents, those who are home, help that child with the homework. Read to the children. Teach them how to get along with one another instead of trying to settle a disagreement the wrong way. Try to talk to your children, to talk it over, to see what they can do. And parents, don't judge your children, say my children don't do anything. You never know what your child does out of sight. When they get out of your sight, you don't know what your child's going to do. So, and try to be there with your children.
Okay. Now, if you can give one phrase about Carroll County through the years growing up in here and all the way to today, what would that be? What would that saying be?
That saying would be what can I say? If I had to move away from where I am now, Carroll County would be the first place I would come back to, especially Taneytown. That's all I can say about that.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today, Ms. Franklin. I appreciate it, and I know you have to go, but I appreciate you making time to come in and speak with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I was glad I could come.
All right. Thank you.